Welcome to Abolition Radio, the broadcast outreach of Love Never Fails, inviting you to join the fight to end human trafficking.
Oh, give me eyes to see. Oh, give me strength to lead. You give me all I need. So give me courage to believe.
Each week, Abolition Radio sheds light on the darkness of modern slavery, celebrates the work of abolitionists who are fighting for freedom, and equips the church to engage in the work of justice with hope rooted in God's Word. Our goal is to see a radio audience become an army of gospel activists.
You're in the neighborhoods we live in. You're in the ones we're passing by. You're in the ones we call our neighbors. And the ones who still escape our eyes.
Now, here's the host of Abolition Radio, founder and executive director of Love Never Fails, Vanessa Scott.
Thanks, Dave, for that introduction. And I am Benita Hopkins, Director of Education for Love Never Fails and the co-host of Abolition Radio. And we're on the air today with some great guests. You guys are going to be excited. And my host will be joining us shortly. But we're starting today with the executive director of Abolition Radio, executive producer, I should say, of Abolition Radio, and the director of ministry relations for KFAX Radio, Mr. Dave Naderhood in the house. Yay!
Hey, how you doing, Benita?
Doing great, Dave. Thanks for being here with us today.
It's weird to be on this side of the microphone.
It's very weird.
For you too, right?
Yes, it is. And
Perfect.
We also have Sandra Herrera, the CEO of Case Industries.
Hi there.
One of our supporters and sponsors. Yes. And Mr. Joel Pena, Vice President of Client Services, or Client Relations with Case Industries as well. Welcome, Joel.
Good afternoon, Benita. Glad to be here.
Good afternoon. So, David, tell us how important is it to have a Case Industries in our midst for the purpose of Abolition Radio, particularly?
That's really phenomenal. Great place to start today because as a lot of people don't know, for example, that KFAX, which to them on their end of the radio feels like a ministry, is actually a business. It's owned by Salem Corporation. It's a publicly traded company, and Sandra is the CEO of a business, and it's designed, its whole intent is to make a profit and to stay in business. So why do for-profit companies want to partner up with nonprofits? Well, that's a really important question that we're going to wrestle with today. So for me personally, since back when I first met you, Benita, the dream of Abolition Radio really is requiring that we get not only individual donors, but in order for that dream of it to really be fulfilled, to start a nationwide network of radio programs that are sponsored locally, not only by those nonprofits that are fighting the fight, but also companies in the area that say, hey, this is a battle we can all agree on to fight together. And so I'm thrilled because I've gotten to know Sandra a little bit offline, and it's like if more people had this kind of a vision.
Yes.
To be able to take the for-profit world and say, look, we want to engage in the good of the community, and here's a battle that we're willing to jump in and fight. Wow, we're looking for more partners out there like this. Did I answer your question?
Yes, you did. And that is so true. We're looking for more partners out there who will take this issue on like Case has done. You know, what I hear you say, though, is we take it upon ourselves to whatever our sphere of influence and use the tools that we have to make the world a better place. I'll go back to a segment that we did earlier. I play in the symphony, and every instrument of the symphony is important.
That's right.
But without all the instruments working together, it's not a symphony. You might have a solo or a little ensemble or whatever, but it takes when everyone is playing together.
Yeah.
And we're not even going to talk about in the right key and at the right time, but when we play together, when the symphony is all the instruments come together to make the music, it makes great sound. So that's what I hear you're saying.
Right.
You know, we use the tools that we have. We take them out of the toolbox, just don't leave them there.
Right.
And wait for someone else to come along to pick up the tool, right?
Yeah, that's right.
But use what we have.
Yeah, and I think along those lines, it was clear from the outset when God first put it on my heart to create Abolition Radio, it was conceptually, it was going to be different than a lot of what people hear on KFAX. It was going to be a program that had a call to action, had a very clear and hopefully compelling story-based line to it, where we want people to hear the stories of survivors, to be aware of the horrible nature of this crime against human beings who are right in our backyard, whether sex trafficking or labor trafficking, that we want to go beyond, though, raising awareness and raising funds to really turning our audience into an army of abolitionists.
Yes.
And in order to do that, I first had to convince myself that this was a challenge, this is a problem that I was willing to count the cost and be a part of. And it's one thing when God puts something on your heart and you go, oh, that's a nice idea, maybe someday. But from my boss's perspective here at the radio station, I'm a salesman. I sell airtime, you know, and so for many, many months, even a year and a half or so, I was ready to give up on this idea, in part because we have always a lot of things to do, a lot of things on our plate. And this was one of those sort of weekend projects, a pet project of mine that I thought, well, when I've got some time,
Right.
I'll focus on Abolition Radio. And, you know, until you determine, you know, and pray for that breakthrough, I finally was just on my face before God saying, God, if you want to make that happen, there's been some closed doors. And it was about that time that that you were making the switch over to work for Love Never Fails, and that I got to meet Vanessa for the first time.
Yeah. Yes.
So.
Because we are way beyond awareness at this point.
Yeah.
You know, come on, it's everywhere we look, right? Every TV show, every movie, drive down the street, you see it. It's high time that we become that army of abolitionists who take on this fight and work together. That is so true. So briefly, really quick, Sandra, can you tell us what was the spark for you?
Well, Vanessa and I sat on the board of our church, Faith Fellowship.
Okay.
And I remember she brought the idea to the board. And we were the only two women. And so that's when I got to know Vanessa a little bit more intimately.
Okay.
And when she started speaking about it, I was dumbfounded. I had no idea. I was so naive to what was really going on around me. I had basically lived in a bubble, in my own little bubble, most of my life. So this was an eye-opener for me. And I started, you know, talking to her a little bit more.
Right.
And when she said, I feel in my heart, and God has placed this on my heart, and I was silently just jumping and saying, yes, yes, yes. Cool. So that was my first eye-opener. And then, you know, slowly getting to know more about it until a couple of years ago, I actually went on the streets. And that was like something I had never in my life experienced.
Yes.
So that was my first introduction to the sex trafficking world.
Wow. And so for you, how long ago was that?
Right when Vanessa started.
Okay.
Over 3 years ago. Yes.
Just over 3 years ago.
Yes.
So for the listening audience, you can tell that, or you can see that It doesn't take a long time. Wherever you are, whatever you're doing, you can find space in this symphony to come and play. Yes. You know, whether it's your donor dollars, but it can be, come walk with us on the street. Come volunteer, get training, educate yourself, get training, come go with us into the schools, whatever it might be. We'll be right back for another segment of Abolition Radio.
We'll be back with more Abolition Radio right after these messages.
Trash bills weighing you down? At Case Industries, we specialize in lowering waste costs and providing trash consolidation and compaction services for multifamily properties, condos, and commercial shopping centers. Let us help you reduce operating expenses and increase property NOI. Case Industries, saving the planet, saving you money. Contact us today for a property trash and recycling assessment online at caseindustries.us or call 510-566-4223. That's caseindustries.us or call 510-566-4223. Case Industries, the property manager's friend.
Hi, I'm Sandra Herrera, CEO of Case Industries. I've found that many employers are looking for ways to help the community but don't know how. I encourage you to consider supporting Abolition Radio as a corporate sponsor. Love Never Fails offers all the resources necessary to help young women and men overcome the trauma of exploitation and abuse. And that's why I'm proud to have Case Industries supporting Abolition Radio.
Welcome back to Abolition Radio, where you are invited to join the fight against human trafficking.
And welcome back to Abolition Radio, the broadcast outreach of Love Never Fails. So in studio, we already did some introductions, and I'm so glad to be able to pile on here and just spend some time with our buddies at Case Industries, who have been sponsoring us for some time, actually sponsoring Love Never Fails and Abolition Radio, but really going back to the very beginning. And I think Sandra was just talking about how we came to know each other and how she sort of supported the vision from the very beginning. And I'm just so blessed to have the opportunity to work with her. And we've got some other things up our sleeve, but we'll save that for a future show. So Dave, you were talking a bit about Salem and, you know, and just sort of the way that things are coming together from a media standpoint in terms of supporting the need to get the word out about human trafficking, and people are becoming more open to this. I was just actually meeting, I had the opportunity to go and be on KTLN and do a second follow-up. And I think you were right behind me. We were Same day to talk. It was a People Like You segment, and it was just giving a thought for the day. I think you did. Did you do the thought for the day? And it's just it was really awesome to know that I was one of the few that was there to talk about human trafficking specifically, and why as Christians we need to be thinking about the importance of justice, the importance of freedom.
That's right.
And why that, and how that is a biblical principle that needs to be sort of raised up in our media a little bit more. So I don't know.
Yeah.
Are you talking with your leadership team more and more about that?
Yeah, thanks. Great question. I hope that they're all listening today. I have been given a kind of a platform here to be creative and to work toward shaping our radio station along those lines of not only being a teaching, but being an application station.
Yep.
And the critical difference there, as James tells us, if we're just hearers of the word, well, Jesus said it first, and then his little brother James repeated it in slightly different word. If we're only hearing the words but not putting it into action, Jesus told the parable of the house on the sand. We're worse than unbelievers in many ways if we're not looking for outlets, ways to put our faith into action. Mm-hmm. And I shared offline, I don't know of anything more important, closer to the heart of God than freeing the oppressed, than seeking justice for those who don't have a voice. And these are things not on the other side of the world, but they're things right in our backyard. And so as I became convicted about that, I started to have to pray and think creatively about how would we build a radio program around something that is heartbreaking, but that is also hopeful.
Right.
And my team here at the radio station, they offered good creative pushback a little bit, like, well, how are you going to keep people coming back? And I said, well, you haven't met Vanessa yet. That was one thing. I knew that would be a big part of it. But also the fact that we are focused on Abolition Radio at the hope-filled ways for listeners to engage. And that's a big problem traditionally in radio, is you have maybe 2 or 3% of the audience that ever gets involved by sending a check-in or sending an email to their favorite preacher or whatever. But this is a part of the problem, is it fuels this idea of radio is just sort of a one-way communication, just like people who show up for church and listen to the preacher, and then they go home and they forget what they heard.
Right.
It's just on a bigger scale.
Yeah.
And I'd like to see that change. I'd like to see our audience really become responsive. And so if you're listening today and you've never written to our radio station or you've never interacted with a program, I don't care which program it is. I'd love it if you interact with this particular program because it's a very important one. But take action based on what you're hearing. And so that's one of my passions, is seeing our audience engage on a new level.
Yeah, I have an idea.
I
want to challenge the listening audience. To go on to our Love Never Fails page.
Yeah.
Or actually our Abolitionist Radio.
Abolitionradio.org.
But our page, our Facebook page, which is Abolition Radio.
Yep.
Go on there, of course, like it, if you like it.
Yeah.
Right? If you like it, like it.
You will.
And then put on there, I heard you. Just, I heard you on the page, so that we know that you are hearing what we're saying and that you are engaging. You are being an active participant in abolishing slavery.
Right.
I heard you, and what let's see. Let's come up with a catchy hashtag I heard, or I love Abolition Radio. How about that?
Okay.
Hashtag I love Abolition Radio.
And if they do so, what do they get?
They get a handshake for me, or a pump, a hand fist for me. I'll give you 2 even.
I'll tell you what, I'll up that ante.
Okay.
If they do hashtag I love Abolition Radio, and they're listening to today's show, I'll send to the first 10 people who do that, I'll send a copy of Call and Response.
There we go.
The video Call and Response, which is a great introduction to this fight.
Absolutely.
So, how about that?
That's great. Thank you, Dave.
I'm a radio guy. I like to give stuff away.
Give stuff away. Hey. If you have Dave in the room, you got to set up that kind of stuff. So anyway, okay, good. So we'll, and it's sometimes it's just getting on the page and saying, I'm here, I'm listening, I'm active. That will make all the difference in your start, in your start, in whatever God is calling you to, whatever your gift may be. Just sowing that little seed can be the beginning of helping someone in such an amazing way that you could have never imagined.
That's right, and this is a way to we want new listeners to be coming on board, of course, and a lot of people are listening on their computer right now, or on iHeartRadio, on mobile apps, or maybe you're driving in your car. But whatever you're doing, take a moment. If you're driving, pull over and pull it up on your smartphone. But go to that Facebook page right now and do it before you forget. If you're on your computer already, just open a new tab, go to Facebook, look for Abolition Radio. We're right there. Like the page. It takes 10 seconds, and it engages you in this very important fight. It's not just about awareness. It's about a call to action.
Absolutely.
Everyday little activities.
Absolutely. So I want to actually invite Joel Peña into the conversation. He's being a little too quiet here. So Joel, first of all, so Joel is here as a member of Case Industries. You are the VP of
Client Relations. Also known as Joel. So thank you. We're in the Bay Area, so if you could say Joel, that's fantastic.
Joel.
Kudos to you, Vanessa.
I can. Sí se puedo. I mean, sí puedo.
Sí se puede. No, it's
sí
okay.
Se puede.
Yes, we can. Yes, we can.
So, but I definitely appreciate you being here as a member of Case Industries, and then also Joel was also part of our Life Launch program, and he worked with our young men, 11 young men who graduated last year from our job training, our workforce development program, and he came in to talk about being active in the community. And I want to talk a little bit, maybe in a future segment, a little bit about your passion there, because I think it's important. We're business people, And we certainly are serious about the business that we have at hand, but also we're people that are working in our communities. Each person in this room has a job, a day-to-day job, and then we have our way that we live. And I think everyone here lives in a way that is socially responsible and in a way that loves, that demonstrates love to the people that we come in contact with. And I want to hear more from you about that. But before we do, your role as VP of Client Services at Case Industries. Tell us about that.
You know, when I was coming up the elevator to the station today, Benita was talking about all the hats that she wears. So
yeah.
We'll talk about.
Was she complaining?
No, she's talking about the hats that she wears. But more of what I was trying
I was just making sure.
More of what I was trying to get at was, Case Industries, the VP of Client Relations. I mean, that's a nice title to get me in front of really important people that can help us, obviously attract more business. But primarily, I'm the interface between the client and the service. Uh-huh. And Sandra was very interested in increasing, presence and face time with the clients. And they represent a broad spectrum of independent owners and publicly traded and everybody in between. Mm-hmm. Nobody thinks of apartment complexes as something that's traded on Wall Street, but over the years, it's become something that's very lucrative. So they wanted a face for the company, and that's what I do. I let them know about the service, I add services, and hopefully retain new clients.
Awesome. Well, and that's part of why we have you here on the show today, because we want to be supportive to our sponsors, but to organizations that are socially responsible, right. Organizations that care about their community or that are sowing into our young people that are looking for jobs, doing workforce development activities. And because at the end of the day, that's your workforce, right, of the future.
Absolutely. And we're also looking for creative ways to be able to include people that are ready to take that step, with our business as well, too. So we're always looking to pilot. We've done some fantastic work over the last couple of years. Yep. And we're always looking for creative ways and ways to engage the community for people that are ready to take that next step. If they're coming through something difficult, we're ready to receive them and work with organizations that want to work with us in terms of helping the planet.
Awesome. Okay, so we're going to come right back in just a second and talk a little bit more about, what does this mean, being a sponsor of Abolition Radio or Love Never Fails? How do you monetize that as a business? But before we do, what is your website, just so in case people want to Google you during the break?
It's caseindustries.us.
Okay, great. Awesome. We'll be right back with another session of Abolition Radio.
We'll be back with more Abolition Radio right after these messages from our sponsors.
Hi, this is Vanessa Scott with Abolition Radio, where every week we invite you to join the fight to bring an end to human trafficking. Abolition Radio is the broadcast outreach of Love Never Fails, our nonprofit, which is dedicated to the rehabilitation, education, and protection of youth involved or at risk of becoming involved in domestic sex trafficking. Our goal with Abolition Radio is to eradicate human trafficking in all forms, sex trafficking and labor trafficking locally and globally. We are excited to bring this program to KFAX as we will share stories of hope and opportunities to mobilize the body of Christ and turn this audience into an army of gospel activists who will speak up for justice and act on behalf of those who are trapped or recovering from slavery. Find us on Facebook at Abolition Radio or on the web at abolitionradio.org and join me each Saturday at 3 p.m. for an exciting episode of Abolition Radio right here on AM 1100 KFAX.
Welcome back to Abolition Radio, where you are invited to join the fight against human trafficking.
And welcome back to Abolition Radio, the broadcast outreach of Love Never Fails. So we were just getting ready to talk a little bit more with Sandra and Joel about the monetizing, of a sponsorship like this. Obviously, the Case Industries is a for-profit organization, and so there has to be sort of that kind of thought process involved when you are purchasing sponsorship time. I know that Sandra and my hearts are linked and certainly very much committed to this fight against human trafficking. But how do you see, and I'll start with you, Sandra, what's your perspective on getting involved with a ministry like Love Never Fails as a business owner? And why would a business owner want to do something like that?
Well, initially for me, it had absolutely nothing to do with promoting the company. Mm-hmm. It was all about what I saw in your heart, your vision. So it was not business related per se. It was very personal, because I think in some form we've all been victims. Either it's verbal abuse, physical abuse, sexual abuse. We've all been, most of us at least, have been there.
Right.
So for me, it was just seeing your heart and just joining with you in that battle.
Yeah.
And I know this company, and I've said it time and time again, and I won't ever stop saying it. This company was a godsend. And I would be so wrong not to do anything with what God has given me or God has put in my lap. So for me personally, it was very personal to be able to help these young ladies and men as my eyes are open to the role that young men play as well. So that was the personal side. So Joel can talk about the business side.
Oh, the boring
The
part.
setup.
There we go.
So why are we doing this?
You know,
Yeah.
I think as a business in today's market and climate, people that want to do business with you also want to know what you're doing to impact the world, and I think that's something that's new.
Yeah,
That's good.
And I think it is great, because I think we're all responsible for how we contribute, how we participate in the business world, because it impacts people not only in their business lives, but when they go home.
yeah,
Yes.
Either through a paycheck or how they get to work, how they get home. Hopefully they have a home.
yeah.
All the issues that come into play. But I think more so for me, fortunately, my other title is Ande's husband. So
That's right.
Ande's
husband.
that's a whole separate show. But Love Never Fails was something that she was always very interested in and got involved in with you and Sandra.
It's been a blessing.
And for me, it was something that was talked about in the home. And I, prior to becoming a professional and going to college and all that, I came from a single parent home, so I had a different view on human trafficking.
Right.
More people would know it, as prostitution. And it's one of the oldest professions that there is.
Right.
I think the lost part of it was the economy that it's become for people and how young the participants are. I think those were all things that were hard to wrestle with, as I'm a father and I have a daughter and I have a son, and it's not limited to women. Boys are getting involved, and just things that you learn coming up in certain neighborhoods and kind of growing up a certain way, and things that are accepted and things that you wrestle with as you move on in your life. And so I think for myself, one of the things that I didn't see was I could see the public safety benefits. I could see politically the importance of legislation. I could see all those things. But what I didn't foresee was how it was going to impact me as a employee of Case Industries and how much satisfaction I would get out of helping a young man, out of going to a street outreach, out of going to places that were perceived to be a certain way,
Right.
and really wasn't the case. And I had the opportunity to do that with you, Vanessa, and I appreciate you going out on a limb to do that. But in terms of monetizing, I just think many people, and if you find corporations like Cisco, like Google, like Salem, corporate social responsibility, what are they doing to contribute? What are they doing to provide a safer planet, a safer place, a safer experience?
Right.
What are we doing?
Right.
And I think the monetization comes with the value that you add. And if we're adding value not only economically, but by what we do and what we say,
Right.
then I think that's where the bang for the buck is. So,
Yeah. I mean, what I have seen is that there are some businesses that, are just looking for the best price.
Right.
But there are other businesses that are literally searching for an organization that has similar values to them, that demonstrates through their hiring practices that they have a socially responsive, socially conscious environment.
Yeah.
And then that they're looking to purchase products that are socially responsible, that they have trauma-informed business practices, that they reward their employees for getting involved in community service activities. I know at Cisco that we actually get there's like these little kudos, these little rewards that we get for doing community service. And aside of matching and things like that, which you'll see a lot of corporations do, And I think I'm a platinum. I get like some big platinum star for doing Love Never Fails, which is woohoo. But anyway, I think this is a demonstration. Case Industries,
but it's important that you mentioned that, because there are a lot of large organizations, not just Cisco. I have a friend of mine that works for AT&T that had no idea that he can log his hours, and he won some kind of presidential award just by logging his hours in the last year.
Yeah.
He's been there for 10 years.
Right.
Wow.
So I think if there's listeners now that are working for large corporations, go and look, ask, find out.
Yeah.
Because there might be an opportunity for you to get out and engage the community, and you there's really no economic, there's no incentive that can buy the feeling you get when you go help somebody. And I think if your organization supports you, it's that much more reason to go out there and do it.
Yeah, one of our volunteers, Phyllis, she works for Google, and she gets paid $10 an hour to do community service for us. The $10 comes to us,
Right.
And then and she's doing community service for us. It's like it's a win-win. A double.
Yeah.
So,
hi, thank you, Phyllis. So the more we can do that kind of thing, the better. But tell me some more from a Case Industry standpoint. Is this part of the way that you sell your business, to talk about your?
We at the moment, no.
Yeah.
I think for us, the way that we're looking at the business, we essentially get, maybe 9 minutes to a decision maker.
Right.
And I think to add human trafficking to that.
Yeah.
Mix,
Oh no.
But what I do see is that an opportunity for us to show more of what we do.
Yeah.
And that's mainly due to the reluctance of our CEO.
Yeah.
Who's really,
Who's in the room with you.
It's tough. But since you're in the building with me, Vanessa, I'm gonna be okay.
Get a blank check.
I'm gonna be okay until I step outside the building.
Man.
No, really, Sandra really doesn't want to promote in that way, because I think there's a lot of folks that use what they do to help their cause.
Yeah.
But I think, obviously
she's being humble.
She's being very humble. And I think at a bare minimum, if we could tie it to public safety, I think everybody's, cares about, people and how to help people. And I think if folks can engage in helping out, be interesting to see how the industries that we sell our solution into could help and maybe partner as well too. Because it is a public safety concern, and, and people are concerned about their brand and their image and how they can help. So
and children, right?
That too.
And education.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, so I think your headquarters is in Hayward, right?
Yes, it is.
And we educated 1,400 students there at Tennyson High School last year.
Yes.
And we'll be going back.
I'm waiting to hear today. They're having a meeting today, as a matter of fact.
Okay. So there you have it, linking together. Here we have this organization that's sponsoring us, Case Industries in Hayward, headquartered in Hayward, and then the children at a high school in Hayward receiving the prevention education that we have. So there's all these linkages in this area. And then you talked about us going on outreach together, also in Hayward, to a couple of the hotels where exploitation are happening. And we did partner up with Council Member Cermeño, yes. Who came with us, so that was awesome.
Next walkathon is going to be in Hayward.
Yeah,
and one of the things that we also did a pilot program at Mount Eden High School. We sponsored a waste audit, which is a waste action project, and we were a little ahead of it because Sandra wanted to engage young people in recycling, because that's a big issue in terms of household waste, and so I think there's something there to partner once you get people ready to take the next step to see how they can apply. Dave talked about application.
Yep.
We're very much about application because the trash has to get taken out.
That's right.
It's just how are we sorting it? How are we engaging? How can we use that as an educational tool to bring home a message of public safety, of economic development, of college and career and those kind of things.
Awesome. Okay, so we'll come right back with another session of Abolition Radio in just a second.
We'll be back with more Abolition Radio right after these messages.
This is Pastor Gary from Faith Fellowship in San Leandro. We are so excited about the launch of Abolition Radio every Saturday. And we have seen Love Never Fails under Vanessa Scott grow right here in San Leandro out of our church at Faith Fellowship. And now her ministry, God gave her a passion to get young people out of the sex trafficking and sex slave industry. And she has been doing a phenomenal job. Not only is it locally, but now it's going globally. In fact, I prophesied to her that God was going to use her to go nationwide, and that's exactly what's been happening. She is a woman with a vision, with a direction, and a passion to see these young people come out of this kind of arena. And to God be the glory. Join with her every Saturday on Abolition Radio to hear what she has to say and then become a part of what she's doing. abolitionradio.org. Love never fails.
Welcome back to Abolition Radio, where you are invited to join the fight against human trafficking.
And welcome back to Abolition Radio, the broadcast outreach of Love Never Fails. So I wanted to dig a little bit more into some of the other things that we've done. So we were just talking about an outreach that we went on with a council member at the time, Francisco Cermeño, and a whole group of us. I think there was about 40 of us, right? That went through. It was a really big group. We were out there with Templo de la Cruz and Glad Tidings, and I believe New Hope was there. Just a bunch of different churches and organizations and people came together and went to a couple of different places where, again, tracks where we know people to have being, that are sold or where exploitation is happening. And was that the first time that you had gone out and done an outreach?
Formally, that was the first time. I think, as I mentioned before, I grew up in different parts of Hayward, and just kind of coming from the single parent situation, you're always kind of put into, certain types of neighborhoods, and so I had seen that, as an observer, and I had seen people affected by the life, but it's the first time that I went as supporting and spreading a message, which was different. Yep. I think the larger piece about what I got out of it was I went with intentions on demonstrating something, but one of the places that we went to, which will remain nameless at the moment, there was a perception as a hotel, that it was a certain type of clientele, and I think having the councilman go with us. And you being as persistent as you were, Vanessa, because they weren't exactly opening the door for us.
Yeah, I was like slipping in through the back.
No, I think the thing that he walked away with and that he was really moved by was that there's families and children in there.
Right.
There's people on fixed incomes.
Right.
There was this perception of the place just because it was kind of stigmatized a certain way, but there's folks that are trying to make it. So there's this overall message of here we go trying to spread a message, but there's much more there.
Right.
And so it's important that people, understand that when we're out there, we're running into a whole host of people in different places and times in their walk and, kind of where they are. And so, for me, it was incredibly impactful as being out there with purpose and not just observing. I think, Dave hit it on the head with application, hands-on.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
And so that was different. It was different for me. And from that point forward, I view things very different. So I appreciate that opportunity to do it.
Thanks for coming with us. And it was really actually moving for me to watch you guys watch as we prayed with one woman in the laundry area, and she began to cry.
Right.
And she was a woman who was disabled, and she was on fixed income, and she was just really distraught. She had been separated from her children. She was living with a family member there. And at first she was kind of not sure about locking hands with us. Right. And as we held hands, she began to cry, and I could see that really touched, in particular, the council member's heart.
Right.
And it was just like, wow, this is what's going on here. It's kind of interesting. So I know this isn't necessarily the opinion of Case Industries, so just keeping things separate here. But from my perspective, when I talk with people in government, politicians in particular, there's oftentimes a pressure to kind of remove the blight. That's an eyesore. Right. Remove that from here because it's making my city or my town or my, whatever I'm responsible for, is making it look bad. But, love never fails. And me in particular, I have a passion about embrace the blight.
Right.
love the blight. Find out why the eyesore got that way, and dig into it a little bit more. And it does take more energy, because it's so much easier to just push it on over. Like, Hayward could say, I'm just going to push it over to San Leandro, and San Leandro, I'm just pushing it over to Oakland, and I'm going to push it, But where's it going to end?
Yeah, I think it's interesting, and I was, talking to Benita. Benita's a wealth of information. Those many hats. But I think the fact that you're also involved. The education piece, I think, is important, because a lot of those communities, you had mentioned Tennyson. I was a health center coordinator there for a few years when I worked there, and I also worked for the Puente program. So,
the Puente program.
Yeah, I was a public school raised and educated, Hayward Unified. Yeah, wow. Cal State Hayward, we still call it that around these parts.
Is that where you met Ande at the Puente program?
I did actually. Actually.
That story.
We were both mentors, so we'll keep this program PG-13. We'll keep it PG-13. But no, the educational piece, I think, is important, because I think where some folks will feel, let's not put feelings to that situation. Let's not humanize that. And I think when you talked about freedom and human rights, and I think it's important to bring a face to the blight. And so when folks see that children and seniors are affected, I think that has a way of getting past whether you're on the left or the right or in the middle or kind of where you are,
right?
To see what systemically is going wrong, and so I think the education piece is important, because obviously the district is concerned with truancy.
Yes.
And I think if your program has a way to deal with that, then you have to address, okay, now we got them. How do we take the next step?
Right.
And so coming from somebody that, and I really appreciate the opportunity to be able to participate and work and now the sponsorship. How does somebody coming out of that situation? I'm ready, but we're going to get evicted.
Right.
Right? I'm ready, but my mom's an alcoholic. I'm ready, but my dad's in prison.
Right.
But I'm ready.
Right.
Right? We're reducing recidivism. We're doing realignment. What are we doing?
Yeah.
And so I think it challenges us to really come up with solutions to those situations. We can't push it. We can't push it. We can't keep pushing it off, So I think, having more opportunities, and I think the fact that the organization, prides itself on being able to go out there and meet people where they are.
Yep.
We need to engage more people in the community civically, from the business community, to go see that, to see, okay, we know we can push it out, but we can't keep pushing it out.
Right.
So,
We have to do something.
Yeah, Sandra.
It's interesting, because I am part of the Rotary Club of Hayward, and one of the initial things of getting into that club was to speak about myself. And spoke about the company a little bit, myself, and then lastly, I talked about Love Never Fails.
Your second job, right?
I had the mic, so I went with it.
Yeah.
And this is an organization which basically helps the entire community. And we've talked about certain areas of the city and how can we do this or how can we clean it up, quote unquote. But interestingly enough, when I spoke about Love Never Fails, I had all ears and all eyes on me. And to this day, when I speak to different members of that club individually, they still remember that conversation. And when I talk about it now, they go back and say, "Oh yes, I remember that.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit more."
Right.
So it's always important for us to be able to speak to those people in position to be able to do something about it. Yes.
Yeah. I think we need to do a better job, and maybe we take that as an action item to kind of think some more about how we can get on the agendas of the Rotary clubs in the various cities and really make ourselves relevant. I mean, I think that we haven't actually done a study on this, but I think there is a correlation between truancy and receiving the education program. As you begin to make a school a safer place for people who are receiving abuse to come and be forthcoming about the abuse that they're receiving, the more frequently they're going to attend school. So I think we can make a business case for that, right? Yeah. We could do a business case on the connection between us going in and providing, I have this desire to actually adopt a hotel. and go and actually have a room in that hotel and bring services in on an ongoing basis. Not necessarily what people want to do when they want to kick a hotel out.
Right.
But I think if we could do it to demonstrate that that's a better approach, I think it would go somewhere with the business. So we'll be right back in just a second with another session of Abolition Radio.
We'll be back with more Abolition Radio right after these messages from our sponsors.
Trash bills weighing you down? At Case Industries, we specialize in lowering waste costs and providing trash consolidation and compaction services for multifamily properties, condos, and commercial shopping centers. Let us help you reduce operating expenses and increase property NOI. Case Industries, saving the planet, saving you money. Contact us today for a property trash and recycling assessment online at caseindustries.us or call 510-566-4223. That's caseindustries.us or call 510-566-4223. Case Industries, the property manager's friend.
Hi, I'm Sandra Herrera, CEO of Case Industries. I've found that many employers are looking for ways to help the community but don't know how. I encourage you to consider supporting Abolition Radio as a corporate sponsor. Love Never Fails offers all the resources necessary to help young women and men overcome the trauma of exploitation and abuse. And that's why I'm proud to have Case Industries supporting Abolition Radio.
Welcome back to Abolition
Welcome
Radio.
back to Abolition Radio, where you are invited to join the fight against human trafficking.
That I wasn't aware of, actually. Hoyle just mentioned to me that Kamala Harris is developing a book. I don't know that we have.
She actually, I think she's written a couple of books.
Okay.
Our Attorney General is very accomplished. I think her dad was a Stanford economics professor, and her mom is a scientist.
Yeah.
And I think her sister runs a foundation as well too.
She's running for the Senate.
And she's running for Senate. So, I became aware of Kamala's book over the last year. I think it's called Smart on Crime, and she actually has an interesting correlation between people think that it's civil rights. It's a decision between civil rights or kind of jail. You know what I mean? And I think she more eloquently and supported by data, I think, is the big piece. So she has data, at least from what I understand, on truancy rates and people that commit crime down the line.
Okay.
And so if we decrease those truancy rates, the thing is why are they truant to begin with?
Right.
Yes.
And so the data is there, root cause. The data is there. Now, if you're having success going into Tennyson, if you're having success into meeting a need, like I mentioned, offline. There are very well-intentioned and passionate nonprofits that want to do a fantastic job, but sustaining programs is difficult and funding is difficult.
Yes.
There are businesses that want to do the right thing but don't know where to go. And so I think, now in the era of corporate social responsibility, and some of that's driven by pressure, but nonetheless, companies need to have a line item money to steward it to something. And I think the more opportunities that they have,
we're happy to be that line item.
Right.
I'm telling you.
Yes,
Really, talking about value. I mean, when you talk about monetizing, that's monetizing.
Yeah,
that's what monetizing looks like, and you feel good at the same time doing
Absolutely.
it. So.
Well, thank you so much for being on the show today. And again, thank you, Case Industries, for being a sponsor of Abolition Radio. We do want to, before we call it an end, we want to make sure make sure you're aware of events that are going on in the community. So join us tonight. From 6:30 to midnight, we're going to be doing an street outreach in San Francisco. So come and meet us at Faith Fellowship Church at 6:30, 577 Manor Boulevard in San Leandro, and we'll train you, and then we'll go out and experience the very thing that Hoyle was referring to earlier, and reach out and be the hands and feet, get active out there. Also on the 12th, we have rescheduled our Action Network meeting, which was originally scheduled for Easter. It is now going to be on April 12th from 2:15 to 4:15. Again, it will be at Lift Ministries, and that is 22580 Grand Street. Cross Street is A Street in Hayward. So please do come out there and meet with us, learn how you can get involved. Also, on April 20th through 24th, we will have the SEM week, SEM week.
And sexually exploited minors.
And that will be a focus for us. And we are going to, part of that is we'll be doing a walkathon in Hayward. And so if you want to learn more about that, go to our website, which is loveneverfailsus.com, and go to our events page and definitely get involved with that. And then on May 9th, we have Freedom Summit, and that is going to be at the Levi Strauss Stadium. And I am very honored to be one of the speakers that will be talking there, as well as Regina Evans will be sharing some artistic expression there. So please come out for that on May 9th and get your tickets at
baatc.org.
Okay, get your tickets there. And then we want to end with just a reminder to come out and party with us.
Yes.
We are going to be partnering with Cole Emeth on a 80s party.
Yes.
80s party. On the 28th, we're encouraging you to dress up, get involved. Some of us don't even have to buy an afro, right? Come on, some of us can just do it naturally.
She went
We
there.
just go, right? Just go with it.
She said right out of bed.
That's right. But we'll get out there, we'll dance, we'll have some fun. It's $35, so we reduced the price from $50 to $35 so that everyone can get involved. It is on our website, and you can purchase the tickets there.
Yes.
All proceeds will go to Love Never Fails.
Yes.
And so, why can't we have fun and fight against human trafficking
Yes.
at the same time, right? Ooh, ooh. Yes.
The thought I've had today, all day, to listen to everyone talk is how beautiful it is when all of us brethren dwell together
That's
in
right.
unity.
Yes. That's right.
Yes.
In unity.
In unity.
Yeah.
That's it. Okay, so if no one has told you this week, and if you have never heard one of our shows before, we just want to always leave you with this reminder that you are loved.
Thanks for joining us this week on Abolition Radio. We trust that you've been inspired by these stories of hope and survival, and that you'll accept our challenge to get involved by contacting us at abolitionradio.org, by liking and sharing our page on Facebook, Facebook.com/Abolition Radio, or by making a contribution directly to Love Never Fails. Abolition Radio is the broadcast outreach of Love Never Fails, which is a donor-supported, nonprofit ministry that Vanessa founded as a way of directly impacting the lives of young people who are trapped in or at risk of becoming involved in sex trafficking. This broadcast needs your involvement and support. To find out more, simply go to abolitionradio.org and click on Love Never Fails. Today's program was brought to you in part by Case Industries and with major support from the staff and membership and donors at Faith Fellowship Church. Our theme song, Courage to Believe, is by Justin McRoberts. Hear more about his passion for justice and art at justinmcroberts.com. Our audio engineer is Jarrell Martin, and this is Dave Naderhood. On behalf of Vanessa, Benita, and the whole team at Love Never Fails, thanks for listening, and thanks even more for taking action to help set captives free.
You're in the neighborhoods we live in. You're in the ones we're passing by. You're in the ones we call our neighbors, and the ones who still escape our eyes.